not gonna do this, and neither should you. I'm here to talk about the sweetest villain of all times and what it does to our well-being. In case you haven't yet figured it out, it's sugar. So sugar is affecting us in way many more ways than you probably have ever imagined. Just think of it as in US alone, 52.3% of the population is suffering from either type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. And to not be confused with type 1, type 2 is a dietary disease caused by the overconsumption of carbohydrates. Yeah. And it doesn't end there. Dysregulation in the blood sugar caused by the overconsumption of carbohydrates leads to other problems. Some of them are just chronic inflammation, could be cholesterol, elevated cholesterol. It can be loss of pregnancy in some occasions. It is linked to Alzheimer's disease. It is even suppressing our immune system. Okay, there's so many things that blood sugar dysregulations can do, and all of it are coming down to one thing: the overconsumption of sugar, which leads to insulin resistance. All right, before I get deeper into this, I would like to just put a disclaimer out there that I'm not a doctor. I'm a person who's interested in nutrition, and I've always been interested in it, but I got even more into it 7 years ago when I realized that I was pre-diabetic, even though I was following all dietary guidelines, specifically the Mediterranean ones, considered to be the best ones in the world, okay? And there I was, I'm going to say was because I no longer am, being pre-diabetic. Okay, so what I want to say is this is something reversible. This is something that you can fix. I had to study and study to figure out what I was doing wrong in order to see if I can prevent or reverse it. And I stumbled upon this amazing book by Dr. Jason Fung. It's called The Diabetes Code, which I highly recommend to anyone, even if you are not diabetic or anything like that. It's an amazing book. It really explains how insulin resistance works, and it really helped me overcome my insulin resistance. So think of insulin resistance as the main problem, okay? But what causes it is the fact that we're over consuming carbohydrates. Insulin is a hormone that regulates the sugar that goes in the bloodstream and removes it from there and puts it in the cells. But what happens over time when you're over consuming sugar, your cells become overwhelmed, and then they are resistant to the insulin trying to put the sugar in the cells. Over time, what happens is all that sugar is going to overflow back in the bloodstream, and that's when you start to see the elevated blood sugars, and now you're considered pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic. So what can you do? Well, studying is one part. I'm gonna give you a few pieces of advice that really have helped me over those past 7 years adapt to this, and so that you can do this in a sustainable way and an enjoyable way too. What I would first say, and this is the most important thing, is do not eat anything that your great grandmother would not recognize as food on the table. And that's basically the most important advice that I can give you, or anyone who is trying to improve their diets, okay? The problem with the foods and the convenient ways of preparing them nowadays is costing us our health. So by preparing your own foods, you're making sure that the ingredients that go in are what it is that you need. You're also making sure you're not adding sugars, you're not adding starches, you're not adding fillers, so you're getting the nutrient density that you need. You should stick to a good protein source like meat, seafood, mushrooms from vegetables, and then some vegetables such as greens, cruciferous veggies, not the starchy kind, because starches do eventually become sugar in your bloodstream. So when you establish that you do have a meal, and there's so many options out there, especially nowadays with a lot of recipes, a lot of people sharing them, you probably think, okay, so how about dessert? What do I do with dessert? Can I just like have some fruit, Well, here's what you have to think about. Fruit is essentially candy, and what happens, especially with fruits, is that their sugars are fructose. So fructose is a sugar that turns into fat around your liver, and that over time can lead to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Yikes, right? Did I make you put that candy down yet? Give me a few more minutes. All right. So if you still want to do some fruit, I would recommend you going for the lower sugar fruits, such as berries. A handful of berries, is okay. And you can definitely make your own desserts like ice cream, which is something I really enjoy almost every day. In fact, there is a recipe for that on my Instagram page, and I'm going to share the link with you guys so you can enjoy it. What I would also like to share with you is that you have to be very careful with your labels, the nutrition labels. You have to read them, you have to inform yourself of the things that are masquerading as sugars, because there's things that we wouldn't expect to have sugar, such as the lunch meat. And somebody would say, okay, what if I still want to eat some grains, and I opt for a whole wheat tortilla that has some turkey in it? Well, let me tell you, it doesn't really work that way. The glycemic index of a food, which indicates how much your blood sugar is going to spike, says that wheat is higher than sugar. Sugar has a glycemic index of 60 and wheat has a glycemic index of 80. And then when you look at the meat, the lunch meat, the problem is that they want it to stay good for a long amount of time, have a good shelf life. So they add a lot of fillers like maltodextrin and dextrose, which are higher in glycemic index than sugar, specifically maltodextrin. So think maltodextrin has the highest of every food there is, and spiking on 130 on the glycemic index when sugar is on 60 or 70. Okay, so stay away from those and learn to read your labels. If you want to use sweeteners, opt for natural options. And I'm not saying honey and agave, these are pure sugars. And I know we all love them, but I would rather eat something with stevia and monk fruit, and I know how to make it taste good, than being a diabetic because I want to eat honey. Okay, so another thing to mention is that we need to understand that each individual's health matters. The fact that I might choose not to eat healthy is affecting my society. Okay, it's affecting the society in a lot of ways. We're all pieces of the puzzle, and when a lot of pieces of the puzzle are hurting, our society is hurting, and we're in the midst of an epidemic. And that epidemic being type 2 diabetes or COVID is not a good thing to go through when you're having a suppressed immune system. Okay, so we're all in this together. We can do this. Just make sure you stay healthy and stay away from sugars. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome day.